All right. So what we're going to do tonight is show you a little bit of how you can save money with a Thermomix. So I do want, as you join in tonight, I do need you all to pop into the chat box if you have a Thermomix or not. It is really important. Whether you have a Thermomix or not and what model you have. So if you have a TM6 or if you have a TM31 or a 5 or you don't know, pop it into the chat box. It just gives us a good idea. Often we have all people that have a Thermomix on here, and that is absolutely fine, but it's just really handy if I know. A big welcome in to Emma and Olivia. They are two brand new consultants of ours that are up in Queensland, so thank you guys for jumping on. Fantastic. Lovely to have you guys join us. All right. Most of you guys do 2 TM6s. Fantastic. So do I. If you have pop that into the chat box, do so. Now, you are almost welcome to pop your cameras on at any stage. Pop your cameras on, come off mute, chat with us, let us know what you think, ask your questions. It is totally interactive. We are here to help. We would not be Zooming with you on a Wednesday night if we did not want to help you. So please ask any questions that you need. We'll give you the opportunity to, at the end, stay on as well. So if there's something unrelated to tonight that you need help with or you want to know about, just stay on at the end and I can work through that with you as well. So tonight is all about savings with your Thermomix. The cost of a Thermomix is significant. We're not selling a $200 machine. We are selling something that is worth quite a little bit of money. And when it comes to us as consultants selling this, we know that. We know that it is a significant investment for you guys to be making. But we also know that it can pay for itself. And it can quite literally put money back in your pocket if you use it that way. So what we do throughout our demos, our cooking experiences, for some of us, it's what we share on our social media and what we talk to our customers about all the time, is how you can save money. Because it's not going to save money just sitting on your bench. It isn't a miracle worker. It won't just put money back in your bank, but it will save you money if you are using it the right way. And sometimes we have people who buy a Thermomix and they don't use it enough. They don't use it for the right things. And I am really passionate about all of my team of consultants really looking after their customers and making sure that you are all getting the most out of your Thermomix. And if saving money is important to you now, whether it be you're brand new to Thermomix and you're looking to earn back your Thermomix, or if you're down the track and things have changed for you and you need to save some money, the Thermomix can do that. We are here to help you with some tips around how to do that. So tonight I'm going to cook, Shannon is going to cook, and I'm going to take you through some cookie-do. I'm going to show you where to find those budget-friendly ideas and talk through some of those. I'm also going to direct you to our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group called Life Changers Community. I'll pop it into the chat box in a little while. If you're not in there already, jump in there. We ran a savings campaign. I can't remember what month, maybe January, maybe March, somewhere around there in the year. We did an entire month of savings. So there's saving tips there all throughout from all of our consultants, tons and tons. I'm not going to take you through them all tonight because you can go and have a look at that yourself. But I will direct you there to read through all of those. Just search savings in the group and you'll see tons in there. What we're going to do is cook for you. I would love for you to share throughout tonight what you do to save money. And the reason why this is really important is that for everybody, it is really, really different. I'm just 1 second. I need to just turn this off so my phone stops dinging. All right. So for every family, it's very different. And what I'm saying here is I've had a family who bought a Thermomix. They had 4 kids. And they paid their Thermomix off just by making yogurt. How crazy is that? They made so much yogurt. Their family ate so much yogurt that they were spending $20, $30, $40 a week on yogurt alone, which is really not hard to do. When they swapped it and started making it themselves, they suddenly started to save $20 or $30. Yogurt was costing them hardly anything. They said, just on yogurt alone, I'll pay my Thermomix off in a year or in 18 months. Another family were celiacs and they were buying almond meal. They were buying almond meal and they were buying almond milk because they couldn't have dairy. And they swapped all of that and they started buying whole almonds. They could buy them then in bulk. They made their own almond milk. They made other nut milks. They made all of their nut butters and made their, and they said, we are literally, it's going to pay for itself overnight in what we can save here. So it is relevant to you, and what we're maybe going to talk about tonight may not be relevant to you. So that is why we're going to give you lots and lots of ideas. But I would love to hear from all of you. Where does the Thermomix save you the most money? Pop it into the chat box as we go tonight, or come off mute and let us know. But I'm going to get cooking before we get too far into it. So keep them coming through. If you think of something throughout and you go, hey, that is a really good money saver for me, pop it into the chat box and we can just keep those ideas coming through. What I'm going to do is make veggie stock. Now, has all of you made this? Has everybody made veggie stock? Give me a nod or pop it in the chat. I hope that you all have. Usually our process is when you get your Thermomix, we do a delivery with you and you make the vegetable stock. It is a staple. It will save you so much money. It is a must, Shannon. It is an absolute must. It is liquid gold. But if you look at this at a cost point of view, one jar of stock will cost you next to nothing to make, and it will give you, I'm not very good with figures, so don't ask me exact figures, something like 100 serves of stock, tablespoons of stock. If you were to go and buy 100 bottles of liquid stock, how much would that cost you? A lot of money. And that is what some people are buying. Some people in their weekly grocery shop are buying 2, 3, 4 liters of liquid stock every single week, when they could be making this and popping in a bit of water and having the same thing for a fraction of the cost. So it is a really, really key ingredient to make. So when I bring up veggie stock on Cookie Doo, it calls for all of these different vegetables. I don't like waste, number one, and I have chooks, so nothing does get officially wasted at my house, but I still don't like waste. So I pop into the freezer all of the random bits of vegetables. This is an old piece of lettuce. I have some old spring onions and shallots. I've got a really old bit of eggplant in here. I've got Brussels sprout. I've got all sorts, literally anything. I've got veggie peelings in here and scraps and bits that are going off. They all go into the freezer in a bag, and they're all chopped relatively small, so they can just go straight into the Thermomix. The first time that you do this, you may want to sort of follow your recipe a little bit to go off weights. I've done this enough time to know that this container is a pretty good amount, and I'm just going to throw it all in. So if I go into here for vegetable stock, just type it in here. Vegetable stock, oh yeah, we're in the wrong one. Vegetable stock paste. My God, let me go into my recently cooked, it'll be here. Vegetable stock paste. Where are you? Gets made pretty regularly at my place. There we go. All right, vegetable stock paste. So first thing that you do with this is you throw in all your vegetables. So the recipe will call for celery, carrots, onion, tomato, zucchini, garlic, and a bay leaf, and then some herbs. So I have this big mix of vegetables here. Now, if you have a herb garden, go for it with whatever herbs you want to pop in. Again, herb garden itself is a great way for you to save some money, and it really packs the flavour in for this. So a herb garden is a great way to go. Don't worry too much about the in-season herbs, particularly if you're buying them, because they can be really expensive. I will use dried sometimes if I don't have them in my garden. At the moment, I don't have a herb garden at all. So dried is what I'm using. And the fresh ones that I did get, I raided someone's garden, I pop them in the freezer. They don't look nice. So certainly not good for garnishing, but they will go perfectly in stock once again. So another little tip there is to freeze. So freeze what you don't use, and then you can use it another day, and it will save you heaps and heaps and heaps. And you can really put any herbs in the stock. The recipe will call for those staple herbs, but you can put a little bit of anything that you need in, anything that you have on hand. If you have neighbours that have a herb garden, go and ask them. Say, hey, can I borrow some herbs? Herbs are one of those things, once you get them growing, you've got them coming at your ears. most people with a herb garden are very, very happy to share. We also need some sage. This is not in season down here. You can't get it from the shop, so I'm just going to use dried. But again, if you can have that in your garden, it's an absolute winner. We also call for some rosemary and some parsley and some basil. So what I don't have here, I'm just going to make up with dried. And this is really, really a budget way of doing it. It's just using dried as opposed to fresh. All right, throwing what we have, and I'm going to pop my measuring cup on. Now, because this is quite full and because they're still a little bit frozen and whatnot, I'm going to pop my spatula in through the top so that while this chopping up is going, I can just keep on pushing it all down onto the blades. So this stock so far hasn't cost me anything. All of these veggies I already had, I was throwing them out anyway. So they're beautifully chopped up. A few cents worth of herbs so far in these dried herbs has been all that it's cost me. Now, if I go next, I put in some rock salt. This calls for 150 grams of rock salt. This is another thing I will need to pay for. It isn't very expensive. I usually put in about 100 grams, but that is my personal preference. Start with the form out. You can always take it back once you've made it and you get the hang of what you and your family like. And then you've got a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to tip that in as well. Our lid goes on. We need our steaming basket on top. Mine's run away. Again, my steaming basket on top. And we're going on to cook. So this cooks now for 20 minutes. Pretty simple to get started. And then that's off doing its own thing. So while it's going, we're going to throw over to Shannon. She's going to do some cooking for you. And then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about cookie do while we wait for our stock to cook.
Hey everybody, I'm Shannon. I'm a relatively new consultant. I now have 2 machines, which I've earned both for free. So winning at life, I reckon. What I'm going to show you to cook today is I have made some pizza dough. So there it is, it's nicely risen. But one of the things you can make, and it's super easy and quick, is a base, like a pizza sauce. So that's what I'm going to do, and then you whack it in a jar. So I can use some of it to go on the pizzas. I put the rest in the jar and it goes in the fridge. And it's really easy. It's quick. It's often with stuff that you have in your pantry, and so it definitely saves money, I reckon. Another couple of things that I love to do is I like to make my own tandoori pastes. I like Joe has done. I make my own veggie stock. Things like that are super easy. One of the things I did the other day was make my own taco seasoning, and often it's all stuff you have in your spice cabinet anyway. So have a look through Cookie Do. That's what I would recommend. Have a look through Cookie Do and see what things you can make or what you might need and make them up. And then you can make up a little jar of it, and you're not having to necessarily buy those extra spices and stuff in town. So I'm going to start with this. So I've found it I've saved it into my recipe collection. So I'm going to hit start cooking. So I've already got some jars organized. It's going to say throw in 1 brown onion, and I've just done a little onion. I'm not going to do too much more. And then it's going to call for some garlic next. Now, I don't have any garlic cloves. I've got minced garlic, and so I'm just going to do 2 teaspoons of the minced garlic in there. Love me some garlic. I've actually got a heap in the garden, but it won't be ready till November. So it's just going to ask me to put the lid on. Sorry, I need to find one again. And it's just going to chop that up. So hopefully that will knock that sound out. Okay, now it's just going to get me to scrape down the sides with spatula. And it's going to ask me to add some oil, which is trying to find my other oil. Oh, I don't have it there. That's all right. Rightio. So this is asking for extra virgin olive oil, so 20 grams. I think one of the things with Thermomixes is sometimes, Joe, and you might agree with this, sometimes we just fall into regular habits, and then that's when we sort of stop using our machines a bit. But if you get into habits of making stuff regularly and also things that are quite efficient and money saving, then that's when the Thermomix will really start to sort of save you money, is when you make some of this stuff a habit. So it's asking to place a simmering basket on, and that's just going to cook for two minutes. As for the pizza bases, so as I said, that's the dough. I'm going to roll that out and turn them into mini pizza bases. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to put the pizza sauce on them. I'm just going to do ham and cheese and pineapple, and the boys will be able to take them to school tomorrow. So like little mini base pizzas, and then the rest they can either have for the next day, or I might freeze some. But there's such an easy lunchbox recipe, and honestly the pizza dough is super easy to make. It really doesn't take long, and you can make a couple of big pizzas with it. I actually followed the same recipe the other night and made with spelt flour, so I react to wheat. I made it with spelt flour, and yeah, it was great. So you know, have a bit of a play around. You can always make more if you think you need to make more. But yeah, it's one of those easy, quick ones that if you've got anything in the fridge or whatever, you know, it's pretty easy to whip up a pizza base. And if you've got the sauce in the fridge too, then it's super easy. But if you don't, you can absolutely make it yourself. So that's just sauteing at the moment. As I said before too, one of the other things I like to do is make my own sort of, sorry, my voice is catchy a bit, but tandoori pastes and that kind of thing. So as I'm having a look, I've got my other Thermomix here. So as I have a look at my recipe collections, I go in and I've created a collection, and one of the created collections I've got is spices. So I have different recipe collections, smokos, dinners, all that sort of stuff. And I've got spices in there. And so I've got things like chicken stock paste. If you haven't given the chicken stock paste a go, definitely worth a go. Chili oil, 5-spice powder, Worcestershire sauce, the pizza sauce, rosemary, salt, tandoori paste, and tikka paste are some of the ones I've got in there. So it's beeping at me to tell me it's done. And now it's just asking for 800 grams peeled tomato. So I'm just going to go big one. And put that in. And then it's also asking for 40 grams of tomato paste, which is roughly a good tablespoon. Now it's going to ask for oregano. I'm going to be lazy. I do have oregano out in my herb patch, but I'm not going to go outside to get it. So I am just going to use some dried herbs that I have and just whack that in. Hit next. And then it's asking for 1 teaspoon of sugar. And I just suddenly realized I'd forgotten that has sugar. So give me 2 seconds while I grab some. And that's saying 1 to 2 pinches of sea salt. I don't use sea salt. I just have the rock salt. And I think that's the other thing, is sometimes it's just playing around with what you have and what you like. You don't need to get fixed on certain things. You can always adapt. So it says place simmering basket instead of measuring cup onto the lid, and this is going to go for 10 minutes. So while that's going for 10 minutes, I am going to get my pizza bases ready, and we might go back to you, Joe.
Get myself off mute. 1 second. And put myself back up. Perfect. So while we have a little bit of time here, I've still got 10 minutes going on mine as well. I'm going to quickly take you into Cookie Doo. So when you think savings with your Thermomix, like I said at the start, it is really personal to you and what you're cooking. The Thermomix, because it can create restaurant quality food at home, regardless of whether you are a fantastic cook and you just don't have time to do that, or whether you don't know how to cook at all, it will give you the ability to cook like that. If you are a family or a person or a couple who does enjoy going out for dinner once a week or getting takeaway once a week, if you can swap that and make a restaurant quality, restaurant style meal at home, you will save your family so much money. And little examples of this is something like the sticky sesame chicken. If you haven't made it, go and have a look at this on Cookie Doo. It isn't a 5-minute meal. It's a little bit of time in the kitchen. You have to marinate the chicken and then you've got to cook it and you've got to make a sauce. It's a little bit more time in the kitchen, but it would be a very lengthy meal without a Thermomix. And it's really very easy to do. It is just step by step. It's not difficult. It's just a little bit of hands-on time in the kitchen. But what you are left with is sticky chicken as nice as you would get at any takeaway restaurant. Something else like Shannon is doing is pizzas. I know myself as a family, pizzas was one thing that even when I got a Thermomix, we still didn't do much to begin with. We would still go and buy takeaway pizzas. Not often, maybe once a month, but takeaway pizzas for our family would cost over $100, and it's even more now. Whereas now we do pizzas at least once a week at home, and they cost us maybe $10, $20, depending on what ingredients we use. In fact, we had a whole party here the other weekend for my son's birthday. We had a ton of people here. I did pizzas, and at the very most, I would have spent maybe $50, and we fed so many people. And the most money went into the meat and the cheese that went on the pizzas. But had we have done a barbecue or something like that, we would have easily spent $200 or $300 on meat doing something like that. So these little changes are bigger changes, actually changing your lifestyle a little bit. And that might take a bit of adjusting for your family, but it will save you hugely. So swapping some of those meals, having some takeaway things at home is a great thing to do. But the other thing is making your basics. So I'm going to take you now into Cookie Doo quickly. So sometimes Cookie Doo can feel a bit overwhelming. There is so much in there, and sometimes people will say to me, but I don't know where to start. Where do I find these budget-saving recipes? Have a look at the very, very start at your basic cookbook. Now, you all have a hard copy of this. It comes with absolutely every single Thermomix. So you all have one of these white basic cookbooks. This is designed to get you started with the basics. A big part of behind the Thermomix is basics. It is you making these basic ingredients, not just to save money, but also to be cooking from scratch for the health benefits, for the flavor, for all of those things included, but saving money is one of them. So just looking at some of these basics, you've got baking powder. If you make your own baking powder, number one, you can make it in bulk, and then you don't need to go and buy baking powder all the time when you're baking. It is so cheap to make. Something like vanilla paste, again, so much nicer than vanilla paste or vanilla extract, and for a fraction of the cost. Peanut butter. Peanut butter or any nut butters will save you so much money without even thinking about the ingredients and the additives and the things that go into the nut butters you buy in the shop. Peanut butter isn't too expensive if you're just going to buy the cheap brand of it, but it is full of sugars and preservatives and things. As soon as you go for one of the more expensive peanut butters, one that doesn't have all the extras and that is 100% peanuts, you're paying a lot per jar. If you look at something like almond butter or cashew butter, You can pay up to $50 a kilo for it. You don't think it's $50 a kilo because you're only buying a 200-gram jar. But if you go and have a look at the actual dollar per kilo value, some can get up to $50 a kilo. You can go and buy cashews for under $20 a kilo. You are literally paying more than double just for them to blend it down to a butter. Something your Thermomix will do in under 2 minutes. So your nut butters, if you are somebody who uses nut butters, have a go at making your own. Making your own butter is another huge one, particularly if you are somewhere where you can get your hands on cheap cream. It will save you so much money. Making your own mayonnaise. Again, mayonnaise is so simple. Yogurt is one I currently have going at the moment. It's what I was doing while Shannon was cooking, was doing my next step. My yogurt's nearly ready for me to add my starter in. It was set overnight, and I will have 2 liters of the most beautiful, creamy, thick yogurt. And it has cost me about 50 cents for the sugar that went into it, and maybe $1 worth of milk powder. Milk from our cows, and that is all that goes into it. Like Shannon, we are out of a farm, and I want to utilize what I have. We try and have a veggie garden. We don't have much of one right now, but especially throughout summer, we'll have a veggie garden. We'll have chooks for eggs. We'll have our own cattle for beef, and we'll have our own cows for milk. So we can do a lot with what we have here. Number one is we know exactly where everything's coming from, but it is such a big money saver to go. When we have lots of eggs, we eat lots of omelets, and we eat seasonally. And this is another really big key. I think for those of us who are in the country, we do this without realizing. But for those in the city, you may not do this so much, and that is eat seasonally. Just because you feel like a watermelon salad, it's the middle of winter and watermelons are not in season. They're really expensive. Why don't you have a look at what fruits are currently in season? Have a look at what's in season, what fruits, what veggies are cheap at the moment, and meal plan around that rather than back the front, eating what you feel like and buying really expensive fruit and veggies. Fruit and veggies you can still buy cheap. You just need to buy the ones that are in season at the moment, not the ones that are out of season. The supermarkets are so good at giving us a huge variety, but they're making us pay through the nose because they are importing and buying and shipping from all over the country, trying to give you variety of everything rather than what's in season. If you can get to a farmer's market or any sort of local hubs, anything like Box Divvy, you will save on your fruit and veggies, absolutely. And anytime you can support your local butchers and all that sort of thing, you will save because you can buy bulk, you can buy cheaper cuts of meat, you can do all of those little bits and pieces. But here in Cookie Doo, we've got some other basics. You can see our vegetable stock here. There's the chicken stock that Shannon was mentioning. And here we're getting to some really fun stuff like puff pastry, short pastry, something that would, prior to a Thermomix, be super expensive, something like a lemon meringue pie. You would pay quite a bit of money for a lemon meringue pie at a bakery. If you go out to a restaurant or a cafe, you will pay at least $8.50 for a piece of lemon meringue pie. Sure, it will come out nice and pretty on a plate with some ice cream and cream, but it will cost you at least $8.50. You can make that yourself. You can make your own pastry, use your local lemons for some lemon curd, your egg whites for the meringue, and it will not cost you very much money at all, and you will make an incredible dessert. You've got everything here from pasta to all of your sauces. Again, if you enjoy or your partner enjoys going to the pub and having a steak and some nice sauce, why don't you have a look at what steak sauces you can make at home? Make a Diane or a Bernaise, or make a nice gravy and jazz up one of those pub meals, one of those eating out dinners. Do it at home, jazz it up, really nice salad and some good sauces like that, and you will save yourself money.
That Diane sauce is great. That's something we do regularly. You know, if you can, we often have, as a bit of a special, we'll have the steak, or do chips in the air fryer, and we'll do some veggies and then Diane sauce. It's awesome.
And for your family, Shannon, if you were to go to the pub and get something like that for all of you, what would you look to spend?
Oh, well, if we were all getting steak, it'd be $150 or more. Like, to be honest, yeah, absolutely. it's gotten up. It's getting more expensive now. The boys are starting to eat more.
Absolutely, absolutely. So without going through this entire, got the idea here. There is so much that you can do. This is just in our basic cookbook, which you all get with your Thermomix. If you want to have a look a little bit further into Cookie Doo, we can go out of here and have a look here at some savings. We have a collection done up just this winter, so it's really, really recent, called Stack Up the Savings. Some things in here, you can save this. Some things in here are fake away style, meaning that they are, just like Shannon said, going to replace you instead of needing to go and eat out. You can do it at home. And others are just some really budget-friendly meals. Something like the pastizio is so cheap, it will feed an absolute crowd, and it is delicious. You've got soup, you've got dal, you've got this beautiful pie, something like tacos, smoothies. There is so much in here, but all really, really cheap. The buttermilk loaf, if you're making something like butter, you will be left with some buttermilk. Again, utilize all the different components when you're cooking. So utilize that butter, that buttermilk, turn it into buttermilk loaf. You'll be amazed at how that bread will turn out. You've got your yogurt, you have all of these things in here. They will save you an absolute bomb. So jump into here and save this one, our Stack Up the Savings. But if we search anything else, even here like budget, whoops.
I was going to say, Jo, last night for dinner we had the potato and leek soup. And I mean, that has to be one of the cheapest things you could cook, really. And it's so tasty, and it tastes lovely hot. I imagine it would taste just as nice cold. But, you know, there's 5 of us in the family, and that soup did us all. So there are lots of options like that too.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And you can see here there's entire collections, budget-friendly Italian, a budget-friendly pasta. This is all under $5 or less per serve. And there is one more favorite that I will show you, because this is one you all need to see. And it is simply delicious. All under $5 a serve. There is everything in this. But again, budget friendly, easy, quick meals, snacks, desserts, everything in here, but really, really cheap. And you will find, I promise you will find things in here that your entire family will eat. It's a really good collection. Save the whole collection, start having a look. We can give you all this information, but it is only going to work for you if you jump in, find some recipes and start cooking it. That is the only way that it will save. Like I said at the start, the Thermomix on your bench won't save you money. It will when you start to replace things and cook them instead. So I'm just up to my next step. Are you also, I'll let you go, Shannon.
Oh, good. I'm done. And as you can see, that's a heap of pizza sauce in there. So I will let that cool a little bit, and then I'll put it in jars and put them in the fridge. I've actually just put some mini pizzas in the oven too, Jo. So once you've done your step and once I pull them out, I can show people what they look like.
Perfect. I'm going to puree mine. So I'm going to pop my lid in. So I just finished cooking it all down. I'm going to puree. This will be noisy. My Zoom noise will probably cut out. You've got a minute here, so just watch. If there was any recipes that came out to you while we were just having a look at Cookie Doo, please pop them into the chat, because it'll give you all something to do for a minute. But I can just see in the chat, Olivia saying she spent so much on organic nut butters for her babies to introduce them. Absolutely. I can remember when I had my babies, I had my Thermomix, so I'd made all of I would make like purees and pop them into a pouch just for when we were like out and about. And one day I got stuck out and I didn't have any and ended up being out longer. But I'll just duck into Coles and grab a couple. And it was like $5 or $6 per pouch to get some baby food. I didn't want to just buy cheap ones. So I bought, an organic one or some with relatively good ingredients. And I just walked out and said, never, ever. Again, what a flipping ripoff. I can make that at home. My pouches, I bought pouches in a bulk set. They didn't cost me very much. They paid for themselves really quickly. And I'm just making quick purees in my Thermomix. I said, never ever again will I get caught out by one of these pouches because they are such a rip-off. All right, I'm going to puree this. So up into the chat, what recipes did you see while we're looking to do that you want to go and try?
Just think the craziest thing about baby food too is if it's shelf stable. So if you're buying it on the shelf, it's been like it can sit there for years. And so they've had to boil it for literally like days on end to make sure that, and like what's left in it after that point, just so that it's, because they don't add preservatives in it, so that us as mothers look at the back of it and think, oh, this is good for my baby. And it literally just turns it into like a sugary syrup, which is so sad. And you're still paying a ridiculous amount for a tiny bit of like pureed vegetables and fruit, sometimes meat.
Yeah, I made the slice I just put in the chat, I made that this morning, and my 8-year-old daughter did it all. I tried to do a video, but there was lots of interruptions, but we still managed to get all the ingredients out, made and in the oven in under 15 minutes. And so I've got morning teas for the next 2 days. It's so good.
All right, I'm pureed. What have we got? Shannon's popped her recipes in there. Awesome. Chocolate custard, beautiful. Eat desserts. Yes. My kids tell people all the time, we eat ice cream nearly every night. And I go, it's not real ice cream, I promise. Because they eat so much fresh sorbet and fruity dream and all of these different things. It's just fruit or frozen fruit, that sort of thing. It's so cheap. If you haven't made the fresh fruit sorbet, get in and make it. It is only 300 grams of fresh fruit, ice, an egg white, a little bit of sugar and some lemon. So it'll cost you next to nothing, and you can literally use whatever fruit you have that needs using up. Fresh fruit sorbet. Have a look at it on Cookie Do and make it. You will not believe how beautiful and creamy and light and fluffy it comes out at the end. And it honestly will cost you $2 or $3 to make. It is absolutely awesome. All right, my stock is done. It's slightly more green than what it will be sometimes, just because of what I've got in it. Sometimes I put beetroot in it and it goes a bit red. We'll take on whatever color you put in. But I bring this in. Oh, delicious stock paste. And this I put in absolutely everything. So if you want a liquid stock, you can mix about a tablespoon of stock into about half a litre of water. That's about your ratio. So a tablespoon for 500 grams of water, 2 tablespoons for a whole litre. If you are using powdered stock, just swap it 1 for 1. If it calls for a tablespoon or 1 stock cube, just put in a tablespoon of this. As Shannon mentioned before, the chicken stock is delicious, and if you haven't made it, give it a go. So is the beef stock. So always start with the vegetable one. You'll be surprised at just how much flavour this does pack. It is still a fantastic stock, but the meat stocks are next level. They are pretty cool. So they're worth giving a go and adding to your dishes. But you can see this is a big jar. It makes an absolute ton. There is also a collection which I didn't show you on Cookie Do, but it is all about saving waste. It's a less waste with Thermomix. It uses all sorts of veggie scraps. It does things like throws entire onion with the skin on. It uses banana peel in recipes. It is all about saving by using your scraps and your waste. So have a look at it. It's called Less Waste with Thermomix, but it's a really, really good one. So there is my whole jar worth of vegetable stock. That will save me so much money, and it will go in all of my cooking. The salt in the stock will means that it will preserve about 6 months in the going off. And if I into the freezer, it won't freeze solid, so I'll still be able to scoop it out as well. I can see Shannon digging into her oven. Yum.
So that's not all the dough either. I've still got more dough to make some more mini pizzas. As you can see, they've risen beautifully. And honestly, they'll be super easy. The boys will love them for their lunch tomorrow. And yeah, these freeze, as I said, these freeze really well. The pizza dough is definitely something, you can give a go. And sometimes what you can do if you want to make it the night before and then stick it in your fridge overnight and then make it fresh in the morning if you want to do that. I know Joe does a bit of that with bread. Is that right, Joe? Yeah, so, and bread making, like that's the other thing we haven't even touched on. Recently I made a sultana bread for the family, and they just loved it for breakfast. They absolutely annihilated it. So there's lots of different options like that, but this is, if you haven't made the pizza dough, definitely give it a crack. You can make mini pizzas, you can make bigger pizzas, but it's a quick, easy, and especially with the pizza sauce, super efficient way of making some food.
Beautiful.
I'm going to put this down now.
If anybody else has other ideas, put them into the chat. But if you haven't had a chance, go and have a read through there now. There are some fantastic ideas there to save some money with your Thermomix. Recommendations. As I mentioned at the start, jump into our Life Changers community. So jump onto Facebook for Life Changers community. Otherwise, it is on our link tree as well, which you were probably sent tonight in order to get on this Zoom. It is our community group. So jump in there and search savings. You'll be surprised. There is some awesome saving tips popped in there. Again, more inspiration, but also some other ideas that you might not have thought of. We could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. There is so much stuff we haven't even mentioned that you could save money on. The Thermomix is so versatile, but it is absolutely a machine that will pay for itself if you use it that way. It will really, really save you a bunch. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. We're going to finish off our recording. We will pop this up onto YouTube so you can come back and watch it later if you've missed out, or if you have a friend who would really benefit